Hi, and welcome to our webinar. Thanks so much for joining us. So my name's Coralie Fernando. I'm the head of marketing at Recruitment. And in front of you, you're seeing Rebecca Siciliano. She's the managing director. So in the last couple of weeks, we've seen obviously a number of businesses needing to adapt to remote working, including ourselves. And we thought it might be useful just to share some of those observations about how the different companies are adapting of all different sort of shapes and sizes and industries in the hope that it might help some other businesses. So there, you guys should be able to see a Q&A button on the right hand side there. So at any point, feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation and we'll do our best to answer them. So Rebecca, how have you found the last few weeks?
Been an interesting few weeks. I think one of the big things from our side is, we always talk about flexible working and the need that people have got, or the want that they have to work from home. And now it's something that, it was previously a benefit. It's sort of been forced upon us now, and everyone's trying to adjust and realizing there are a lot of things that we hadn't previously taken into account when it comes to working from home that are actually a really important part of making sure that, business runs smoothly and your staff are well looked after as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of operations teams, particularly, have been put to the test. So I know, like from our perspective, our poor operations director, Erin, she actually started with us just, I think it was literally 2 weeks ago to the day, and she was definitely thrown in the deep end. Can you talk through, I guess, some of the sort of key areas that you've both been focusing on?
Definitely. So I think for us, one of the biggest things for us has been technology. We working from home is something that we used from time to time, but it wasn't something we relied upon. So we had capacity for 25 people out of a company of 45 to be able to log on remotely. And we'd never actually tested the system with having 25 people logged on remotely at one time either. So for us, it was really important to test the systems and then just react very quickly to what we needed to put in place from an IT perspective as well. For us, that looked like, putting a new firewall in place and making sure that we had the systems there so that people could log on where they needed to, introducing sort of half the staff entering via sort of a VPN setup and the other half through a remote desktop. So it's really been important to work with our IT company and IT teams as well to make sure that we've got some good solutions there. From there, it's just been like constant testing and making sure that every day we're testing the systems, we're seeing how they're working, even things you don't even think about, like diverting the phone lines and things like that, just to kind of continue with business as normal as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. And our clients, I think, have been doing some interesting things as well. Have you seen anything that they're doing that, or any sort of tips or bits that you might be able to share?
Definitely. And something we've done as well is just looking at things like equipment that people are using at home and where people are working from home. For instance, we've seen a lot of companies that are doing things like making sure that if staff need internet boosters, they're ordering them and sending them out to them, or footrests, or all of the sort of things that they're going to need to make sure that their working from home is as comfortable as possible. I spoke to a client yesterday who told me that he had someone working from home where, they had, it was the person was sort of living with flatmates, so they had one person on the stairs, one person, in the kitchen, one person in their bedroom, and that's not something that you can sustain for a whole day, let alone for sort of weeks on end. So for us as well, and for this client, we're sort of looking at how do we make sure that staff are set up and they've got a designated place from home to work. So little things like sort of knowing where your staff are working from, what's their setup like at home. Are you doing like assessments with people to sort of say, okay, are you in a space where you've got the cables tucked away and you're not going to trip over them when you get up from sitting down? looking at if they are in a comfortable chair, they're not hunched over, like all of those little things that are going to make a difference to sort of someone's just general sort of health and well-being throughout the working day as well. Checklists that you can run through with your staff as well to make sure that they're getting up and taking regular breaks and things like that too. We've seen they're all really important aspects.
Yeah, I guess because, it's despite the fact that we are all at home at the moment, and, a lot of us have worked from home occasionally, this is a vastly different setup when it's permanent. So ergonomics obviously need to be taken that much more seriously. I suppose, those individual assessments that you mentioned, those are probably going to become quite important, I would imagine, for HR managers to do individually with staff.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that's going to be a big focus for HR managers, or where you don't have, dedicated HR manager. It might be your office manager that's taking on those responsibilities. We're thrown into this situation now where it's not just about sort of where you're sitting and how you're doing work, but then the other distractions of children that are at home now, or flatmates or partners or things like that. So there are so many other things that need to come into play to make sure that you've got your sort of dedicated workspace and it's comfortable and you've got everything that you need to go by your day-to-day tasks as well.
Yeah, and so on the health and well-being side, can you sort of talk through some of the measures that, or the more interesting measures that you've seen clients implement?
Yeah, definitely. So I think overall the health and wellbeing thing is important because people are, they're getting out of bed, they're coming downstairs or, going into their lounge room or kitchen, and that's the space that they're working from. So for us, we've seen it's really important to, first of all, create the separation, but also people are feeling really sort of unsure at the moment, and there are sort of people that are just uncertain about what the market's doing in general. So for us, we've seen it's really important to make sure that you're sending constant positive messages out to staff. Like we've started a internal newsletter, which is going out to people with just, the daily productivity tip for the day, or something that they can do sort of on their lunch break, or just little things like that, just to keep them engaged and to keep them productive as well. And a lot of other companies we're seeing are doing something similar as well. I guess we sort of underestimate as well, like anxiety can be a real problem for people as well. Like they might already have anxiety issues or things like that, and something like this can really compound that. So, making sure that staff are supported, whether that is things like access to apps like Headspace or Calm that can sort of give them a bit of a break and help focus them again. Any online counselling tools that you can take advantage of are really important as well, and just those regular check-in calls too, just to make sure that people are coping and they are okay. We don't know what sort of external influences they have or what people are saying to them, so it's just really important to make sure people are as protected as they can be as well.
Yeah, and like you said, I think a lot of that is going to be around making sure that they know where to go if they are feeling anxious, or if they are feeling like they're not being as productive. I guess, just in terms of, soft benefits. So, for example, a lot of employees normally might have access to counselling, for example, and you mentioned online counselling there. How might companies translate or evolve their soft benefits to cater for the situation that we're in?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of companies really try and maintain this business as usual approach, and that applies for soft benefits as well. So companies that are offering all of their staff sort of free breakfast or lunch daily, we're seeing some of those companies offer an extra little allowance, to allow for that as well, and give staff those benefits too. At Tiger, we do a monthly team lunch. So we, said to the team, right, order your lunch day and expense it. So it's still making sure they're sort of feeling like those benefits are there. We've heard about companies doing sort of where they usually have their end of month or end of quarter drinks. They'll be sending out, a drink to, a bottle of champagne or something like that out to their staff to say, enjoy this on us. Or even sort of, letting them expense if they are sort of buying a bottle of wine or something like that too. So just all those little things so that people still feel that there is, like, these are all soft benefits we put in place to create that, team camaraderie and make sure people are feeling involved. So it's still making them feel as involved as you can do when they are working remotely as well.
Yeah, that sense of connectivity, and just feeling close to your colleagues is so important. Like even the free lunch. I saw some of our staff were putting that on social media last week, and even for us to be able to sort of share that stuff, I think it does help staff to feel closer to one another. In terms of communication, excuse me, sorry. In terms of communication, and that's that sense of feeling connected. Um, I'm sure you've received lots of emails since you started working from home. I know I have, about businesses sort of changing the way that they're working and giving us their updates. Do you have any tips on how companies should be best communicating with their staff and stakeholders?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's that, where we are sort of reliant on emails, like, you notice it so much more when you don't have someone that's like in the same room with you that you can just go to them and ask a question or anything like that. And that's something, I was having a conversation with someone on the team yesterday, and that was their comment, that they found it really different when they couldn't sort of say to the person sitting next to them, hey, what do I do when this happens? So we're encouraging staff as much as possible to use platforms like Slack for instant messaging, where you do still feel like you can ask someone a question and get an instant response. WhatsApp groups, things like that. Zoom is another one that we're hearing so much about. Apps like Zoom, Microsoft Hangouts, Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams. Like, there are a range of different households. We're really encouraging these face-to-face calls with all team members. So we've been doing sort of daily catch-ups with everyone, where you get to actually see each other, see what everyone's sort of doing, making sure they're prepared for the day. I think it just helps people feel like they're mentally prepared for the workday as well, if they know they've got to log on to this call and be on and be ready, as opposed to just sort of rolling out of bed, and you might sort of be responding to a few emails while still in your pajamas or something like that. It's just getting across to people, like, get up, prepare for your work day as normal. We're going to be communicating with you as we normally would, and maintain sort of that consistent messaging all the way through. Like, people are, as we've sort of said, like, feeling really insecure and not sure what's happening out there. So again, it's just about making sure that people have always got a line into their managers or colleagues or things like that to feel supported as well.
Yeah, and so important that communication is as positive as possible as well.
Definitely. And, even things like, we've designated someone within the company to do political updates. So every day she'll send out an update and let us know, what the latest is from the government, because it's just something that we want to make sure it's, communicated succinctly. Like, some people might hear these announcements, but, they're not quite sure what to take in. So it's just sort of highlighting the key points for people as well.
Yeah, definitely. And also just, I think, communicating some of the ground rules around the video calls too. I know we had our catch up with all 45 of our staff on Monday, didn't we? And that could have been mayhem. So it's just about simple things like communicating beforehand. When you enter the call, make sure you're on mute, your camera's off, having someone to host that meeting and share it properly to make sure they're delegating who's talking to whom. There are lots of sort of new ways of communicating that we're all sort of learning right now. So in terms of productivity and engagement, what advice would you give to managers who are looking to measure it or engage their staff in this new setup if they haven't managed remote teams before?
Yeah, so we are constantly hearing about productivity over presenteeism, but now is where we can see it's even more important. And for us, that a lot of it comes back to that flexibility as well. Like, for instance, we're finding at the moment there might be some people that are part of our workforce who have got children at home. That means that when they've got the kids there, they can't necessarily log on at 8:30 and start their workday as normal. So we're encouraging people to sort of adjust their working patterns to allow them to work from home more easily. For some people, that looks like logging on earlier in the morning. They might be on sort of 2 hours earlier, taking a break in the middle of the day, and then, staying on later in the evening as well. So those sorts of things are going to help people with their productivity if they've got sort of, people around them or outside factors that are sort of impacting them. We're really trying to make sure that the team, when they're going about sort of their day, are sending us through like actual tangible sort of productive goals. So things like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z today, and knowing exactly what they're going to set out to do, rather than sort of just blocking out times where they might not necessarily be sticking to those times, or even if they are, they're just not getting the same sort of output within those time frames. So for that, it's about sort of making sure people have got these clear ideas and that they're finishing their working day feeling like they've really achieved something as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just, I guess, moving on to the recruitment side, what has been the main sort of impact on recruitment activity that you've seen in the last couple of weeks?
So we've certainly seen like business critical roles, recruitment as usual, and those positions are continuing. We've seen things obviously slow, and that's been a slowing both on the number of candidate applications coming through, as well as on the number of live roles that there are out there. It's not too dissimilar to what we saw, back in the 2008 credit crunch, but I think the feel is that this is going to be sort of shorter and sharper, but it will bounce back quickly. We're seeing a lot of companies look at what they can do around onboarding people remotely and making sure that they are sort of sending laptops out to their home addresses, again, taking advantage of all of these sort of online platforms that we've used to communicate with people, to take them through training sessions, even sort of looking at using this time now to upskill staff that perhaps aren't as busy as well, and giving them sort of online tools that they can tap into, to, all those little things that you often want to do in your day-to-day role but don't always have time to do. Like, now is the time to tap into those sorts of things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And in terms of, I guess, the onboarding side, have you seen any sort of interesting things on that front?
The onboarding, I guess what's been interesting for us is that for a lot of companies that are just getting on with this, it's just business as usual. They're sort of making sure that people have got the resources that they need, got all their equipment set up.
Yeah.
But it's just a different way of working. It's just sort of, rather than needing to, sit down with someone and show them something, there's more reliance on video calls or, setting up times to speak to someone and guide them through things over the phone. So there's no time like things taking a little bit longer, but it also means that people need to think for themselves a little bit as well. And for feedback from, some people has been actually being thrown in at the deep end and needing to figure things out is what they're finding is the best way to learn as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, the news in terms of, I guess, just staffing and recruitment, the news from Boris just about the scheme for subsidising 80% of salaries is going to be quite reassuring for a lot of companies too.
Definitely. And I think I would say, for all businesses out there, like, look at what the government are offering, because they're doing it for a reason, and take advantage of, any of the government schemes that are going at the moment that are there to protect your business and protect staff as well.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thanks so much for that. That was all really interesting, and has shared some really valuable insights there. Thanks to our attendees for coming along. If you'd like to have a chat with either of us, please feel free to email just tiger@tiger-recruitment.co.uk. We're also going to be hosting another webinar next Tuesday on the 31st at 1 o'clock, where Missy Schutvine, our head of permanent recruitment, is going to be interviewing Tessa Cooper, who's the founder of Collaborative Future. Tune in if you can. Thanks very much, guys. See you next time. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks.